Hey everyone, welcome to the channel where a furry doggo reads RPG horror stories for your listening pleasure. In today's episode, we have two examples of players so obnoxious, so creepy, and so cringe that they will make you want to yell at your screen. Though, before we get to that, I have to ask that you roll a crit on that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe and click that bell, as to help appease the algorithm AI that rules over all of YouTube. Though with that preamble out of the way, let's hop right into these stories that will make you want to facepalm. Or facepalm. Older man joins a beginner D&D one-shot for children and makes one of them cry. By Reddit user, One Shot Doctor. I have a horror story for you all that I'm sure keeps a few kids up at night. I used to be a DM at game rooms at local anime conventions. It was really fun. Stay up late, game with strangers, and just have a really fun time. Sometimes I would get little kids at my table. Usually they were interested because their parents played or they had heard of it and wanted to give it a shot. I had no problem with teaching them how to play and catering the adventure towards them and their tastes. The day in question, I was a DM at a con where they had a rule where anyone can join the table. Because, and quote, it provides inclusivity to anyone regardless of race, sexuality, gender, and age. Everything was going fine at first. I had a few kids that were respectively 12, 13, and 15, and I was helping them to make characters and telling them about the game. We were getting ready to play when, at the corner of my eye, I see the man. I call him a man because he was obviously in his mid-40s. He was wearing an Inuyasha shirt and looked lost and confused. He then walked over to my table. Man,
Hey, do you have any room at the table?
Me, yeah, but it's for beginners. Are you okay with playing with a bunch of people who have never played before?
Man, I have been playing since 1981. I can handle a few newbies. I can show them how the game is really played.
This is when the red flag should have started to go off, but being in my early 20s and no common sense, it did not. Because of that rule, and also the game had not yet started, I allowed him into the game. He rolled up his character quickly. He was a barbarian half-orc, while the rest of the party was a wizard, ranger, and bard. The first 30 minutes were going fine. I was running a one-shot that was really simple. Go to the tower, get magical item, and bring it back to a wizard. They started in a small town, where they are tasked by a local wizard to help them. 13-year-old, I would like to ask about the item. Me, it's an orb that helps channel his power to better help the town. The man,
I'm sorry, what? That's not how orbs work.
The man interrupts me, as he starts talking about how it's in none of the rules books. I tell him, this is a focusing orb that some wizards use to help with their magic. He grumbles a bit and tries to talk about lore and the rulebooks to no avail. The party gets to the base of the tower where there is a large wooden door, and they need a word to open it. The wizard in question that hired them was a bit forgetful and forgot his password. 12-year-old, maybe the password is password. The man,
You're stupid, or
insert R word here,
if you think that will work.
At this point, I am in a bit of shock, because a grown-ass man has told a 12-year-old that. This is when I should have asked him to calm down or politely leave. I blame myself a bit looking back at it now, mostly because I thought I would handle the situation and deal with a problem player. I feel bad, but I actually ignored the comment. 15-year-old, I would like to search and see if there's a hollowed out rock near the door. My dad loses his keys all the time and has a hidden key. Me, you roll to investigate, and yes, you find a rock underneath it that actually has a hidden word that says the word, password 123. I get a chuckle at the table from the kids. The only one not laughing is the man who crosses his arms in an almost get off my lawn type of way. The man,
That's not funny. I signed up for a serious game. I want the game to be serious.
He raises his voice at the last part. The laughs and smiles kind of fade away from everyone, and I decide to be a smartass. Me, we are just having a good time. You're supposed to have a fun time when playing. The man.
Dungeons and Dragons is a serious game.
Me. Not really. I try to run my games to have fun with my players and I. I really should not have been a smartass, and I am as much to blame as the man. The man.
You run your games wrong.
At this point, I'm kinda shocked because I had never been told that before, and this is really where I should have just kicked him out, though I thought I could handle the situation. Me. Fine, I will take it a bit more serious. Let's continue. Things kind of settle down a bit as they make their way up the tower to get the orb. He starts to backseat DM a bit, but I chalked it down to him trying to possibly help. The weird feeling starts to fade a bit as they solve a few puzzles, and the problem really starts at the first part of combat. They are attacked by flying books. Everyone rolls for initiative, and the 12-year-old goes first. 12-year-old. I would like to shoot an arrow. Ranger of the group. How do I do my attack? I explain how to do an attack and what dice to roll. The 12-year-old picks up the wrong dice and rolls. The man.
You are.
Insert R word here. The game room goes quiet. At this point, I tell him to leave because he can't go insulting players, and kids nonetheless. The man.
No, I came to play a game and I will play the game.
Me. No, you're being an asshole and a bully. You are not allowed at my table. The man did not like this and slammed his hands on the table. The kids around me all turn pale, and I see a friend of mine who was also working the game room pick up a hotel phone, and I hope to dial hotel security. The man then proceeds to lose his collective shit at me, calling me a shit DM, and that I don't follow the rules or respect the lore. He starts dropping slurs at me and calls the kids names as well. He grabs his character sheet and kicks the table and storms out of the room. The 12-year-old is in tears and calls their mom to pick them up. I sit down and try to collect myself. None of the kids want to continue playing, and I tell them that that is very understandable and I would not blame them. I later found out that the man was kicked out of the convention for touching a cosplayer and raging at her when she told him to stop. Since this encounter, I have learned a lot. I still teach kids how to play and have a lot of fun. My only rule now is that they all have to be the same age range. TLDR, older man joins a beginner D&D one-shot for children, gets mad at the DM and the kids, saying that they are not taking the game seriously, and makes a huge scene and makes one kid cry. Wow, it sounds like OP had a run-in with the poster child for that guy. I seriously wonder what goes on in the heads of people like this, that think it's okay to insult people that are just learning how to play any tabletop RPG like this, especially when they're kids. If I was the DM, I would have booted his ass quicker than Will Smith reacting to a G.I. Jane joke. Though it does sound like OP realized he should have as well. And no, 40-year-old Manchild, OP was not running the game wrong. There's no wrong way to play D&D, as long as everybody is having fun. And your idea of what D&D should be does not dictate how other people have to play. If your idea of fun ruins it for everyone else, go to another table. I am glad to hear that this did not deter OP from continuing to teach people how to play this fantastic hobby though. Though, what would you have done in this situation? On to the next story. Manchild tries to ruin 2-year-long Legend of the Five Rings campaign. By Reddit user Joker19. Hello everyone. This is not my story. It happened to some of my friends, but I thought it was too good not to share. I do know the individual in question though, which we will call Ralph, for Ralph Wiggum. So during my years at the gaming store here, everyone knew everyone. We all knew Uncle Baldy, who would always cough mid-sentence. We all knew Jeeves, who ran mage like a godsend, and Pirate Elf, who looked like an elf and would run 7th Sea. And then there was Kaio. A little bit of a backstory on Kaio. He is, and was, one of the greatest Legend of the Five Rings DMs I know. Why is that? Well, not only was he Japanese, he had a PhD in Japanese history, and was aiming to get a degree in Chinese history too. His games were a godsend, especially since he would not take himself too serious. He would always make time to add some jokes and fun in the middle of the game, since he knew how dense Legend of the Five Rings could be. So, one of my friends, who we will call Eric, joined his game. He was his best friend. Hell, they were almost Siamese twins. Eric was a troublemaker like me. We would outlaugh each other, and I loved talking to that guy, since nothing was sacred and everything was fun all the time. My time back then was limited, so I could hang out with them, but not actively play Legend of the Five Rings. They were a good group of people. Now, enter Ralphie. Ralphie was a 30-year-old man-child back then, circa 2004 to 2006. Bald, overweight, and would always try to come out on top of everything. When role-playing, his character had to have every magical item right away. He had to be the hero of the story. The party were his NPCs, at least in his perception, and I had an exchange with him while running Hunter the Vigil. He wanted to play Aegis Kai Doru, basically archaeologists who use sacred items to fight the supernatural. He demanded to start with an item like a sacred Nordic axe that could do X amount of damage to vampires and werewolves, and would mark him as a godsend. I told him, sure, but your character has to find it first, since, in my honest opinion, that could be the beginning of a very Indiana Jones-esque campaign. His answer was, I don't care, I want it and I have it. His answer would always be that, I don't care, I want it and I have it. Now, you may say he was a shitty role player, but he was kind of a shitty person too. The defense wishes to show Exhibits A and B to the court. Exhibit A. One of my friends, who we will call Albert, was a nice guy, and an incredible GM when it came to hero-style stuff. He once told me they had gone to an event. Ralph was part of the group, and one of the girls was having a rough day. Apparently, one of her close relatives had died recently, and Al took her to this anime event to get her distracted. At one point, she went outside, sat by herself on a park-like area within the convention center, and Albert was there, talking to her, trying to cheer her up. Out of the blue, Ralph arrives, giggling to himself. This girl was crying her heart out, and pouring her every emotion based on her relative's passing. So Ralph decides to sit nearby, make the loudest fart a human can make, laugh in amusement seeing the girl crying, and say something like, quote, "Stop crying, I know I ate a lot of garlic, but that's too much." Albert, my friend, has the patience of a saint. Exhibit B. For some reason, Albert gave a second chance to Ralphie. So you see, he and his group were going to meet up to roll them dice. Albert took a ride on his bike to the place, and every 10 minutes, Ralph would call, demanding to know where he was. During the trip, my friend fell and broke his clavicle. Now, my friend was screaming in agony and pain, and called an ambulance. While waiting, Ralphie called him and said, quote, "Where the fuck are you? We are waiting for you." To which Albert screamed and replied, quote, "I just fell and broke my arm. I just called the paramedics." To which Ralphie sighed and said, quote, "So I guess you're not coming." These two bits of evidence were given to me by Albert, who I still keep in touch with to this day. Now for the main event. Now, bear in mind, I will tell the story the same way it was told to me by Eric. Kaio decided to run an epic long campaign of Legend of the Five Rings, to which some of the players were his girlfriend, Eric, Dave, and of course, Ralphie. Ralphie was playing a crab. In Legends of the Five Ring terms, it means they hit hard and carry heavy weapons instead of just katanas. The thing is, all of the players knew Legend of the Five Rings before, and Kaio had explained it to them that it was a political campaign with elements of fantasy, to which Ralph just said, quote, "I don't care," and joined anyways. The campaign went smoothly at first. It wasn't too combat heavy, but Ralph would insist on playing as if the party were his coterie of NPCs. During one of the games, a massive beast started to attack every town edge from the wall and was moving to the capital. Every attack was rendered useless against the beast, and Ralph tried to fight this Oni multiple times. though each attempt was futile. The GM would describe how the Oni would regenerate faster than the damage that Ralph could cause, to which, none surprisingly, he would reply, quote, "I don't care, I try again." After a few attempts, the party had to hog tie him and pull him away from the battlefield, so he would not die. This event was after a year of role-playing, by the way, and Ralph would be there. And the thing is, anytime there would be roleplay, or the players had to sit down with a governor or a member of a clan or family, Ralph would just pull out his 3DS and play something, while the rest of the party would sigh and focus on the discussion elements. Ralph would only be active during a fight. The House of 1,000 Fortunes. Somehow, don't ask me how, the players got into the celestial realms to discuss directly with the gods. From Amaterasu to Fukurokujen to all of the fortunes. Thing was that for 6 months, the combat would die, and they would only meet to roleplay, trying to convince the gods for divine intervention. Eric mentioned to me that in the Legend of the Five Rings lore, the gods had made a pact of non-direct intervention, so the players had to convince them to throw them a friggin' bone. The details were mostly avoided, but knowing Kaio, he would have made the players go through tests of intelligence, wisdom, and whatnot. No, not doing rolls, but through RP, doing paintings for the gods, poetry, and whatnot. While all this took place, Ralph would only sit in the corner playing with his 3DS, eating junk food, and sometimes looking up to see what was going on, and then focus back on his 3DS. By the end, the gods gave one spell that could weaken the beast enough to take physical damage. So the players went back to Rokugan and planned on how to attack the beast. They had to do more RP to get the clans to do a temporal alliance to fight this, led by the Crab Clan and their Shigenjas, magic monks. The idea was to cast a spell that would make lightning fall on top of the creature, and that would dispel its regeneration. The massive Oni was advancing and crushing houses under its feet, while he would constantly scream, waving a massive tetsubo made of corpses. Each movement would allow the corpses to fall onto the ground and become restless undead. So all and every attack was at a distance, while Eric, the party's Shigenja of Phoenix, and Dallas, the dragon monk, and Shaka, another crab would be casting the spells, and the rest would have to keep the beast at bay. Cue Ralph again. He had fought the monster and knew it would regenerate incredibly fast, to which even the GM, Kaio, God bless his infinite patience, would tell him, quote, "You know it's kind of useless." To which Ralph would say, and please repeat it with me, "I don't care, I do it." So Ralph rises his Yari spear while riding his horse. The Shigenjas roll to summon the lightning spell. Kaio demands Ralph to do a dodge roll, and Ralph assumed the dodge was to dodge the beast attack, to which he said, "I tank it." So the lightning hits Ralph's character. Kaio makes a massive damage roll, and Ralph's character died right there and then, wasting their only opportunity to kill the beast. For the first time in years, I heard that Kaio was shocked and was like, "What the fuck do I do to save the game?" He asked for a break and sent everyone home, and he was heartbroken. Cue Eric. He was taking Ralph to take the bus back home, to which Ralph was upset that Kaio killed his character. While Eric was trying to explain, Ralph wasn't really paying attention and just said, quote, "I don't care, I'm the hero. I don't deserve to be cheap-shotted out of the campaign." Shaka saw his phone and looked at Eric, giving him a look. Eric was like, "What the fuck?" And both of them dropped Ralph off at the bus. As soon as the bus was far enough, Eric was heading to take the subway when Shaka stopped him, and on his words, Kaio had sent everyone a text saying, quote, "Make sure this fucker takes the bus. As soon as he gets in, you all come back to my place. We're saving this game." Last I heard, Ralph was working for Nintendo. He was working as a Nintendo sales representative at a GameStop type of store. And by Nintendo sales representative, I mean he is just a vendor. Though in his mind, he represents Nintendo. Kaio had a kid, and he's been focusing on his family. Eric and I still talk, and I still can't believe how fucking badly Ralph derailed that game. I wish someday to run Legend of the Five Rings, but for now, I'll keep collecting stories like these to dodge people like Ralph. Now, I have never played Legends of the Five Rings, but I assume the same rules of tabletop RPGs apply. Ralph definitely seemed like a that guy with main character syndrome. He wanted to be the hero, but he ignored the game unless he was fighting, missing a pivotal plot point, which in the end got his character killed. I don't blame the DM for saying that the game was done, just so Ralph would get on a bus and the rest of the players could save the game. It also sounds like Ralph still has the sense of self-aggrandizement as he tells people that he works for Nintendo, while in fact, he just works at a game store. He definitely seems like the type to be a pathological liar, as I have come across quite a few in my time on this planet. I'm just glad that I have never run into one like this in any of my games. Have you ever had a run-in with an adult that acted like a child at a tabletop RPG table? If so, what did they do, and how did you handle the situation? If you have a story that you would like to be read on the channel, be sure to post it in the comments, on the channel subreddit, or even just shoot me a message over on Twitter. As always, I appreciate all of you, and here's some Lucky, because I know you all want to see him.
Where's Lucky? Where's Lucky? Where's Lucky? Where's Lucky? Where's Lucky? There's Lucky!
Until next time.